Hi there, good noon and welcome to BYJU'S exam prep channel that is dedicated to your success as a CAT aspirant. In this particular session, we plan to talk about a roadmap for you so that you can go ahead and prepare for CAT 2024 in the best possible manner. So I personally want to see you finish across that finish line and beyond that finish line with a great percentile. So my name is Vikrant. I act as your personal coach for all things related to English and communication. I've been teaching for a good 22 years now, and I have had 100% and 100 percentile in the CAT VARC section. And during the course, if you have any question or concern, feel more than free to drop it in the chat window below, and stay ready to take a lot of screenshots or click a lot of pics as and when the need arises. Okay, so before we start, do you have a question? Do you have a concern? And even more importantly, if you are new here, if it's the first time that you have come here, I hope you have subscribed to our channel. If you haven't, then you'd miss out on a truckload of sessions that we keep bringing for you day in and day out, week in and week out, so that you go on to become absolutely amazing. Okay, so that's what we are really going to talk about today. So any questions, any concerns before I begin? Anything that you think I can talk about and benefit you with? There are times when we may actually have some very specific questions that you thought that, oh, I will like to find the answers to these someday. So today is that day when you can sit down here with me and get answers to those questions. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's start, shall we? Are we ready? Okay, so I am going to give you a rather simple, rather straightforward plan. And what is that plan? That plan has this absolute first step, and then there are three phases, right? So the absolute first step is to identify your target B schools, because without this, I think whatever we talk about is going to be rendered rather meaningless. So that's an absolute first step that all of us definitely need to go on and take. And after that, there are three different phases for you when it comes to your preparation. So phase one is the beginning phase, right? You are a beginner, so you would go ahead and work during this phase one. Then phase two will basically make you an expert, and then phase three will take you towards mastery. So let's start with the first one, identifying your target business school, because that is exactly where the journey starts from. So what are your target colleges? So tell me, which college are you really aiming at getting into? Come on, use the chat window liberally to tell this to me. And then see, Ritikesh says VARC is tough. Thank God that it is tough, Ritikesh. That's why people need me. I tell them how they can work so that eventually it becomes easy for them. Right? But which college? And frankly, it's not VARC which is difficult. I'll tell you the real reason. But you need to tell me your target colleges. So if you are here by now, I am assuming that you already know that you want to get into a B school. You know that you want to do your MBA for some reason, right? So we'll begin from there. And to make it easy for you, let's just start. So when we talk about the top colleges in the country, the first name that comes to our mind is the IIMs. So I remember there was a time when we had only 4 IIMs. I mean, I personally remember that era. And then they added 2 more, and then some more, and then eventually we landed up with 20 different IIMs. Not all of them are ranked equally high, but if we talk about the old four, IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, Lucknow, then the other two that was added quite a few years ago, Indore and Kozhikode, and then we also had this Shillong. So these are definitely excellent choices and you can consider them. A lot of the new ones are also very promising. They're giving amazing placements. They can definitely be kept as your plan B. But then are IIMs the only thing? No, we also happen to have other colleges, okay, non-IIM colleges. So Harshad has mentioned XLRI, so I'll mention that here. We also happen to have FMS. Then you have Jamnalal Bajaj. Then we have SP Jain. Okay, MDI Gurgaon. We have ISB in Hyderabad, particularly if you're somebody with work experience, you can definitely look at that seriously. And then there are more colleges, right? If you want to get into human resource management, HR, TISS is an absolute no-brainer. For somebody who specifically wants to get into communication management, MICA is an amazing college. Then you have Narsi Monji, you have SIBM Pune campus, so on and so forth. So you realize there are quite a few good colleges. So I think whenever anybody comes to me and asks about is it a good college, my general answer is yes, it is a good college, but then you need to essentially figure out this one basic little thing, and that is what kind of learning you want to have from college, what kind of pay package are you targeting, and is there a particular organization or sector that you're targeting. A college will be considered good if it takes you into the kind of industry that you want to get into, at the kind of profile and pay package that you want, and the learning environment is amazing, nothing like it. So typically, I'd say when I talk about the top 20, top 25 colleges in the country, I generally not hesitate if you join any of those. The moment you start going beyond that, we have these questions and doubts that emerge. But the preparation has to start with a list of colleges that you'd be happy to get into. Unless you have that list, you wouldn't even be able to move over to the next stage, the next step. After all, it is not about doing just an MBA. It is about building the kind of career that you dream about, right? So that's basically it. So have your target colleges ready. And once you have identified your target colleges, you begin with phase 1. Okay, so what do we do in phase 1? I think the very first thing that you do is you define the duration. So, right now we have 15 months. So I'm saying each one of these 3 phases will be given 5 months. So phase 1 is the beginning phase. Let's give it month 1 to month 5. Okay, so from today onwards to the next 5 months, which will be roughly around February, right? Mid of February. Well, let's say this is a phase that will last till Valentine's Day. Important dates, easy to keep in mind, right? So the very first thing that you do is you go on to understand the selection process. Okay, you have a set of target colleges. Now you need to figure out what all is required to get into those colleges. So the selection process normally is quite simple, quite straightforward. No matter which college you're targeting, it will involve a written exam. So for a lot of these premier colleges, that written exam happens to be the CAT. For colleges like XLRI, you need to appear for ZAT. If you want to get into Jamnalal Bajaj, you also need to target Maharashtra CET or CMAT. But then we know exactly whether they use CMAT or not once the notification for your year comes out. Then there are, of course, other exams like TISNET, SNAP, NMAT, CMAT. So depending upon which college you're targeting, you would go ahead and write one of these written exams, and in those written exams you need to prove your mettle. You need to be among the top candidates. So when I say the top candidates, I mean, just to keep it simple, let's say that you're targeting a score of or a rank of 99 percentile plus. The scores of course are going to vary. So on the basis of this, you are usually shortlisted for the next admission round, and that next round will have one or more of these things. So it can have a VAT, written ability test, which is a fancy name for essay writing. Almost all the colleges except SPJN will put you through a personal interview. SPJN happens to have a group interview. Then you may have a group discussion or a group exercise. Symbiosis colleges would typically have those. MICA has these. Then some of these colleges will also have a segment called extempore. So for example, FMS, if that's your target college, you know that you need to become good at extempore. And apart from these two things, there is this third element that utilizes your past to determine how great a student or how attractive a student you are for the B school, and your past is euphemistically called your profile, right? So your profile includes your academic credentials and achievements. It includes your work experience, if any. It also focuses on, in some colleges at least, your co-curricular and extracurricular activities, extramural activities, all that. So that's basically the domain, the range, the zone that we are looking at when it comes to the selection process. Okay, so bringing you back, so you know about the selection process now. So what is the next thing that you do? The next thing is something that you've done throughout your life whenever you've started preparing for an exam, and that is called identify the syllabus. I mean, you are starting your preparation, so you need to know that, okay, these are the things that I plan to do. And once you've identified the syllabus, break it down into chapters, skills and techniques. Now, why do we want this breakdown? Chapters are like, you know, finite projects. You treat them as projects. So every project has a start date and an end date. So you pick up a chapter, start on that chapter, and a few days or hours from now you'll be done with it. Skills, on the other hand, are not projects. Skills are supposed to be a part of your routine. And then techniques. So the right technique leads to the maximum results. Ever gone to a gym? Ever worked out with weights? Did resistance or strength training? You realize the right technique is the one that gives you the right results, and that can be acquired from experts. So there are others around you who are experienced. There are others around you who know these things better. So you can go ahead and pick up those right techniques from them. Or maybe when you're practicing all these questions, you can also focus on what works better for you, what kind of approach or method works better for you, and that can also help you build your own database. But my advice would be, do not really go and reinvent the wheel for yourself. हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना यार, अपना कुआं खुद खोदने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, जहाँ दूसरों ने कुएं खोदे हैं उसे यूज़ करिए. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are people who know those techniques. Maybe you can just tap those individuals and pick up those techniques. And that is why I asked you to subscribe to this channel, because we share a lot of those things right here on this YouTube channel. Okay. So divide that syllabus into chapters, skills and techniques, and then set a deadline for completing that syllabus. So refer to the first bullet point. That's your deadline. 5 months from now, I want you to ensure that you are done with the entire syllabus once. No, so it does not mean that you have mastered it, remember, but you've at least gone through everything. All the chapters that the syllabus have, you have finished the chapters. You have that conceptual knowledge today, and if anybody gives you a basic question, you will know how to solve it. You may struggle with questions which are moderate or questions which are difficult, but all the basic questions are done for you. Now, when you look at a particular question, you should be able to classify it that, okay, hey, it belongs to that chapter. So that is what I expect you to do by, what is our deadline? If you are looking at this video today, and that is 11th of September, your deadline is 14th of February 2024. Without a deadline, we'd not be able to create that sense of urgency. So it's extremely important that you go ahead and have that deadline. Okay, so now within this, I've asked you that you identify the syllabus, but why do you need to go ahead and identify the syllabus? I can do that for you. So when I talk about the CAT exam, broadly speaking, we have these 3 sections. Those 3 sections test you on 4 areas. So what are those 4 areas? Those sections test you on quantitative aptitude. Those sections test you on data interpretation. They test you on logical reasoning, and they test you on English, which at least in the CAT is called VARC. So let's have a quick look at each one of these 4 areas where I give you the pointers on what it is that you are supposed to be doing. So let's start with quantitative aptitude. Here is the overview of quant. So when it comes to quantitative aptitude, we typically divide that into these 5 broad areas. So you have arithmetic, numbers, algebra, geometry, and modern mathematics. So when we talk about arithmetic, and remember, arithmetic is by and large the stuff that you have studied till 10th standard. These are the chapters that you are mostly asked questions from. Familiar? Remember percentages, profit, loss, discount, simple and compound interest, ratio, proportion, time, speed, distance, time and work, averages, mixtures and allegations. They follow the dominant chunk. And see, these are things that were taught to you between 6th and 10th standard in school. Okay, so you need to identify how comfortable or uncomfortable you are and which level you are today, and then work from there. In case you are somebody who has a lot of discomfort in quant, there is absolutely no harm in starting from your 6th standard NCERT book. But then do keep in mind that if you're starting from that 6th standard book, each one of these books, so when I say 6th to 10th standard, these 5 books should not take you more than 5 weeks to finish. You can think of that as your foundation. So if you're really weak in quant, rebuild that foundation, no? Okay. And after arithmetic, the next area that you need to focus on is number system. And the dominant things that we study under number system are these. So remember all those divisibility rules, remainders, cyclicity, HCF and LCM, factors, prime factorization, finding multiples, surds and indices, base system. So just you can keep taking the screenshots. These will act as your chapters. Okay. Then we have algebra. Now algebra is something that some of you could be potentially uncomfortable with, and some of these things are frankly not even taught at 10th standard. So some of these things can actually go beyond. So here are the chapters that you primarily focus on in algebra. So linear and quadratic equations, inequalities, logs, functions, progressions. Remember those arithmetic, geometric, harmonic progressions? So those kind of things. And then geometry. I don't know why I see a lot of students every year who kind of struggle with geometry. Now I am somebody who's not very good at math, frankly. I teach English, right? So I'd say that I'm not somebody who's excellent or very good at mathematics. But that said, you know what, when it comes to math, one of the areas that I am personally very fond of and I like a lot is geometry. So somehow from the very beginning, I think those shapes came naturally to me, and you can also go ahead and become equally good at those, maybe even better. So the kind of things that you need are lines and angles, then triangles, circles, quadrilaterals, polygons, coordinate geometry, and of course this area called mensuration. Fair enough? And that eventually takes us to this fifth and the last module, which is modern math. And in modern math, we study all these fancy things like set theory and then probability, permutation, combinations, even Venn diagrams. For some of these exams, I would perhaps also add trigonometry, although it's rarely asked nowadays. But trigonometry would also be typically a part of this particular step here. So get that? So that's about your section on quantitative aptitude. After that, we move over to data interpretation. So as the name suggests, you're supposed to interpret some data, and the data is mostly given to you in a visual form. So data happens to have a lot of different visual representations, and the examiner tries to see how comfortable you are when it comes to interpreting those visual interpretations, and the reason is pretty obvious. You've seen a lot of business books and business articles. They are full of graphs, so they obviously want to see how comfortable you are with those graphs. So those graphs, those visual representations are mostly in one of these forms. So you can have tables, bar graphs, line graphs, pie charts, caselets, scatter plot, and even bubble charts. Bubble charts are rare, but even they can be asked. So remember bubble charts where, so for example, let us say you are looking at the sales of a company, sales of different companies. Okay, so you have a market. In that market, you happen to have a lot of competitors. So you can look at their sales, right? So you may say that, okay, the sales is say 50 million, 100 million, 150 million. So it says sales in million. Then you can also have the market share for each one of those competitors, right? So you can have 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%, so on and so forth. So I can talk about the competitors. Let's say competitor A, competitor B, competitor C, competitor D. Now X and Y axis talk about market share and sales volumes, but the size of the bubble can tell you about, so the bubble size can talk about the sales growth year on year. So the company that has grown more will have a larger bubble, the company that has grown less will have a smaller bubble, so on and so forth. So these kind of things. And apart from, of course, becoming excellent at interpreting these, you also need one very crucial, very critical skill called calculation skills. So make sure that you start memorizing your tables, percentages and reciprocals, squares, cubes, square roots and cube roots. Okay, so start memorizing these things, learn approximation, maybe pick up Vedic math skills. So all those things can make you faster, can go ahead and make you more comfortable, more competent at all of these things. Why am I cutting into my own chart? Let me just shift it a bit. I think I'd have to do that for the other slides also, it seems. I did not look at this aspect apparently. Give me a sec. If you have any question in the meanwhile, go ahead and ask that, please. Okay, let's see. So there you go, bringing it all back. So that's about data interpretation, and then moving over to the next segment of the paper that I am very, very, very fond of, and that segment is logical reasoning. I think I love solving puzzles. I like it when that answer emerges at the end of that intense thought process. It almost appears magical, but then of course there is no magic. It is all about training your mind to think in a very structured manner, and that's what the examiner tests us on when it comes to LR. So within logical reasoning, here are the majority of the things that you'd need to go ahead and master. So you can go ahead, give a read to these, and if you have a question, please ask. Keep taking screenshots, okay? Don't forget that. So after LR, we get into English, but just like Quant, I need to start with an overview of English. So English is also divided into 5 modules. So here are those 5 modules for you. So as you can see, the modules are verbal reasoning, reading comprehension, verbal ability, vocabulary, and eventually grammar. So that's what we are targeting. Okay, so let's dive deeper and look at the details of each one of these individually now. So let's see. So when it comes to verbal reasoning, now this is a technical area. These are the 4 basic things that you study there. Now you would have noticed that syllogisms and critical reasoning have also been mentioned in LR. So there are some exams that ask you these things in logical reasoning. There are some exams that test you on these things in your English section. So wherever they are, you need to nonetheless remain prepared. So these 4 basic fundamental things. The first 3 can also be a part of logic normally. Critical reasoning, at least in the CAT, this is something that is very clearly tested with VA and RC. And that has been the case for a long while now. Then reading comprehension. Now this is tricky. See, this is really very important. Reading comprehension is, roughly speaking, 25% of your entire paper. So 1/4 of your entire paper deserves a lot of emphasis and a lot of effort from you. And if you want to excel at reading comprehension in the CAT, these are the 8 things that you need to go ahead and master. Anybody who masters these 8 will perform sensationally well in reading comprehension, and that is exactly what we are counting for. Then when it comes to verbal ability, when it comes to the CAT, these are the 4 chapters that get asked. If I talk about the exams other than the CAT, then you can have questions like verbal analogy. You can have questions that test your understanding of odd word out. You can have these fill in the blank questions, right? So there can be a sentence close or a paragraph close, such things. So that's basically your verbal ability. Then when it comes to vocabulary, there is no distinct syllabus per se, but then you do need to learn these 2 things along with solving vocabulary based questions. But then vocabulary based questions are anyway mostly knowledge based. If you know the meanings of those words, you should generally be good, right? So when it comes to identifying, say, synonyms, antonyms and all that. So then grammar. So when it comes to grammar, I want you to go through 8 parts of speech. Remember all of these words from your school days? Just give them a read quickly. And the next 8 things are elements of sentence plus 3 extra areas. So when I say elements of sentence, I'm talking about these things. So learn about a sentence, subject and predicate, object, what is a phrase, what is a clause, types of phrases, types of clauses, all that. And then subject verb agreement and parallel construction. This 16 thing is not strictly grammar, but then exams like XAT, exams like SNAP can test you on this, and therefore you need to learn this. We have to put it somewhere, so let's go ahead and put it with grammar. Okay, so I had this extra space at the bottom of this slide. I could have also put it with RC, who knows. So that's grammar. So that essentially takes care of your syllabus. So now you know all the things that you're supposed to do. Your job would actually be to start doing those from relevant sources. So you do that for the first 5 months. Make sure that you have gone through all of these chapters once, and then we start with the phase 2. This phase 2 will turn you into an expert. So what do you do in phase 2? So it lasts from month 6 to month 10. Okay, so I told you initially that we'd basically be dividing it across different areas, right? So this one here, you have it month 6 to month 10. So what do you do in this phase? You've already completed the syllabus and you know the basic questions, right? So now is the time when you practice questions that happen to have a higher level of difficulty. Okay, so attempt a lot of moderate questions, attempt quite a few difficult questions. Additionally, build a database of a variety of questions for each topic. So for every concept, I say, even instead of topic, I think it is even better to use the word concept. For example, when I talk about pronouns, I know that there are around, I'd say, 30 different things that are tested in pronouns, around 30 different questions or 30 different types of questions that can be created from pronouns. Similarly, when it comes to basic questions on percentage, I know that there are 4 basic ways of asking those questions, and then of course you can get into further nuances and advanced level of concepts there. Okay, so build that database and particularly keep a track record of which kind of questions you're getting wrong repeatedly, and you can also do that with the help of sectional tests. So write sectional tests to identify your strengths and weaknesses. Start attempting 1 mock test every month. So at this juncture, a lot of mocks may not make much sense to you, but 1 mock is definitely highly desirable for all of us. Fair enough? So once you are done with this phase, once our 10-month period is over and you reach the last 5-month period, you switch over to phase 3, where you become a master of your CAT preparation. So this mastery, so month 11 to month 15, now you will start taking more mock tests, right? So my recommendation is to start attempting 2 mock tests every month in the initial phase. So month 11, month 12, 2 mocks every month, and gradually increase the frequency. So in month 13, 14 and 15, write 3 to 4 mocks every month. Okay, so roughly put, 1 mock every 10 days or 1 mock every 7 days. Additionally, from 15th August onwards, start solving previous year CAT question papers as well. But merely writing the mocks and previous year papers will not make you excellent. Excellence will require that you analyze your performance thoroughly. See what went right and what went wrong. The goal of this analysis is to identify weak areas or to identify areas of improvement. So between one mock and the next, the learning that we had from the previous mock, we put that into plan. Okay, so let us say you got to realize that, oh, there is a particular question type which I get wrong always. So in the next 7, 8, 10 days, you will take action to ensure that you learn the relevant knowledge, the relevant technique, the relevant method of solving that particular question type, so that you stop getting that question wrong and you start getting that right. Okay, so that analysis is going to be critical and very important. And apart from that, in the last 3 months, you would also move more towards the domain of strategy while writing those mocks. So you talk about refining your test taking technique. You'll become better at managing your time during the exam, and you of course need to develop a temperament that allows you to soak in all that pressure that exists in the examination hall. You know, the pressure that comes when you see that clock ticking on the screen. It is real. It is a factor that you need to master. So you need to go ahead and focus on that as well. So engage in these 3 phases, and I'm very sure that you would be in the top 1% eventually. But here are some additional things that I want you to keep in mind throughout your preparation, things that are really very important. And I'd say the number one thing a lot of people think is hard work, but that's not how I would perhaps put it. The number one thing is consistency. The number one thing is developing the right set of habits so that you are able to execute your plan every day. Okay, so if you work sporadically, that won't cut it anymore. So if you work for a week, work very hard for a week, and then you do not work, that won't work. So work on your consistency, and it does not mean that it is all studies, right? You can also take some scheduled breaks, you know, once a month, once in 2 months, once a quarter. Take a mini break, no? Take a break from studying for 3, 4, 5 days a week. Ensure that you do not burn out, and at the same time look at your preparation holistically. So what do I mean by holistically? Everything that I've talked about so far was oriented towards a written exam, but a holistic preparation will also take care of the next round of the selection process, and it will also work on building a stronger profile. So make sure that you do not ignore those aspects of your preparation. And above all, I'd say join a coaching institute. It's not that you cannot work on your own, and then there are people every year who do get selected without joining a coaching institute, but they are rare. They are in great minority. Most of us need that extra help, and you can get that by joining a coaching institute. And since we are talking about coaching institutes, I would like to plug our course. In fact, ours happens to be easily one of the best courses that you will encounter in the world around us. So you can consider enrolling for our CAT 24 batches. I haven't updated the slide yet, but we have started our 24 batches. In fact, there are 2 batches that are already running. So you can definitely consider joining this very comprehensive program. So what do you want from a program? You want classes. You want to ensure that there are doubts that are taken care of, and there is practice material, and there are tests and all that. So look at that, yeah. Every single feature is covered. In fact, we'll give you more than what has been written here. So there are new batches available. You can consider those, and to make it easier for you, you can unlock a 3-day trial, a free 3-day trial, and that batch has produced great results, by the way. Okay, so you can go ahead and unlock your free 3-day trial, experience the course, check it once, then make up your mind. And to make it easier still, we are organizing a scholarship test pretty soon. Okay, so we have these scholarship tests. For instance, the last one just happened yesterday, but then I'm sure you'd find another test happening another 3 weeks, 4 weeks from now. So that's enough time for you to prepare and then write the test so that you can put your best foot forward, and that can lead to up to 90% off. How sweet a deal would that be for you, right? And here is another pro tip. I know you're preparing for CAT 24, but how about finding out where you stand today? You remember all those weight loss advertisements that talk about before and after? So you need to click that before pick, right? So how about appearing for this All India Open Mock that is going on right now? So why don't you register and appear for this test? That's like your before pick. This in itself will teach you a lot. This in itself will tell you what all you can do in order to start your preparation. So do that as well. Additionally, our faculty members are going to be available to you on this very channel this Thursday at 3 p.m. where you can ask us anything live. So any questions that pop up in your mind, you have full 2 days, the next I'd say 2.5 days to think of those questions, and then tune in at 3, discuss those things with us. Moreover, we are organizing another workshop on 17th of September, which will talk about how you can manage your CAT preparation along with your studies, or if you're working along with your job. So you do plenty of things to take care of every aspect of your preparation. Okay, so do that and hopefully it'll be all very well. So that is it from me today. If you have any other question, you can of course drop it on this video, drop it down here in this video, but you can also reach out to us using any of these other platforms. Remember, we are on YouTube, Insta, Facebook, Telegram, and then of course we have our own app. If you have not downloaded that, please do that at the earliest as well. So that's it from me today. Until I see you next, stay safe, stay focused, stay in touch, take care. Have a nice day ahead. Don't forget to like the video before you